Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Gabby and in today's video we're going to be making these handmade ephemera pieces. This has been a highly requested video in my Instagram account, so I'm very excited to show you. I am going to start by making some avocado dye for the paper. This is actually the first time I'm doing this, so we are learning together. I have some avocado skins here that I have washed to remove any leftovers of avocado, and they're dry because I did that a couple of days ago. So I'm putting them in this pot with some water and boiling them for a while. What I learned from watching other tutorials is that the time you boil them is going to influence the color that you get. I am going for something very light and very subtle, so I boiled this for an hour. I'm now going to strain any leftovers and pour the dye on a tray that I can use to dip the paper in. I am now just going to go ahead and dip the paper in it. You can see here that I am actually submerging the paper in the dye, but in past experiences by doing this with coffee, I know you can also get some very cool patterns and like very authentic kind of like age and distress looks by just submerging a part of the paper or little bits of it. So just have fun and try different ways and see what you get. After this, we are just gonna let them dry. I just put them on a regular kitchen tray with kitchen paper and the wet papers on top. I am also going to be making a coffee dye. First, because I really like the style that I get. I have done this one multiple times in the past, and also because it's my first time doing the avocado dye, so just in case that doesn't work out, I still have this as a backup. I am just making regular coffee here. The concentration of your coffee is going to influence the color you get. I personally like to go for at least concentrated coffee. I find that more concentration will give you more of a yellowish tint, and I'm looking for something lighter. I am now going to pour the coffee on the same tray and I'm going to dip my paper. A tip here that I love is to use this torn edges, or to actually grab your paper and pare it before you dip it in the coffee. I really like the effect that it creates. I feel like it's a little bit more organic and natural. So just going ahead, dipping all the paper, and again I am going to set it out to dry with the rest of it. If you want to create a little bit more texture, you can grab the leftover coffee you have on your machine and actually use that with your hands to paint the paper around. I actually don't have a technique or a secret here. This is just about having fun. Do what you feel like and see what you get. I am now going to let the paper dry. For me, it took a day for them to dry, but I guess it will really depend on the weather where you are and how much paper you're drying. You could also just hang it to dry, maybe even outside if you have the weather and the space for it, and it will probably be a lot quicker. This is day 2 and my paper is ready. It's dry now, so I am just collecting it all and I am cleaning off the coffee leftover on the ones that I use ground coffee to paint on. Back on my desk, and I have all the papers ready to be used. First of all, I have a pile with all the ones where I use the avocado dye. I really like the result. It's very, very subtle. In some papers, it's like a very, very light pink color. I don't know if you can see it, but maybe here next to a white piece of paper, you can see it a little bit better. I think it's really nice and subtle. You will see here that the paper that you use will also influence the type of color or final result that you get. Like this one is really pretty, for example. It's very white and it took the color really nicely, and we only did some splashes and I think it turned out really, really pretty. I like these ones a lot. I think the avocado has been a success and I am probably going to be experimenting with it a little bit more in the future. So let me put these aside now, and we are going to look at the coffee paper. You can immediately see the difference. With coffee, you get a much more yellowish, aged kind of look. The paper in my hand right now is parchment style paper, which, along with Tamil River paper, which is the ones you're seeing here with the punched holes, are probably my favorite in terms of the texture that they acquire once they have been dipped in the coffee. It's just really satisfying and it feels quite vintagey. I don't really know how to explain it. You guys have to feel it to know. And here I have the pieces that had been torn before dyeing. You can see that the fibers of the paper where it's been torn kind of absorbs the coffee and the color in kind of uneven ways, which I think looks really, really cool. We're now actually going to start make our ephemera. The first thing I like to work is the background. I don't do this for all the pieces, but I do think that some light stamping with the right texture in the background kind of makes it a little bit more, it brings up that vintage style and it gives it a little bit more of interest, in my opinion. You can use other stamps as well, and you will see me using other ones for backgrounds in this video, but I'm starting with this grid design. After I have my background ready, I'm going to grab what is going to be my central piece or my main ephemera design. In this case, I'm using this French label stamp, which is one of my absolute favorites. I'm just using black ink and I'm going around and just marking or inking where I'm going to be cutting the paper. Something that I love is taking pieces of paper like this that were torn before dyeing and going around and actually partially stamping on it. After you cut it, what you get is a really nice piece that, to me, it gives the vibe that it was torn a long time ago and the edges have kind of aged over time, if that makes sense. And I just love the feeling of them, and I normally use those pieces for my art journaling, and I think they just look really nice. So I'm just gonna go ahead with other stamps I have and just fill in this piece of paper with the different tags and other pieces of ephemera that I might like to cut. Okay, this first piece is ready. I'm going to put it aside and just continue to work through the papers that I have here. Something that I always like to say is, when you are in the middle of doing this, in the middle of your work, if you feel like it doesn't look like you envision it, if you think that it's not coming along as you think it should, trust the process. Just keep going, keep working towards like that vision that you have of what the final product should look like. And I think more often than not, you will find that it is going to look like that and that it is going in that direction. You just have to trust the process and get out of your own way. Okay guys, so on my second piece of paper here, I did some script background and I am now going to be doing some frames in this one, just for a little bit of a different style of ephemera that I can then use in different creative projects or to layer. And the process is the same. I stamped my background, and I am now stamping the main pieces that I'm gonna cut out. Something else that I really like to create is just paper with script on it. When I'm working on layering paper or creating different collages and stuff like that, I think script paper is really, really nice to give that extra layer of texture with paper without being overpowering. It makes for a nice background and a nice filler. So I am also gonna go and just create some pieces of paper that are simply going to be script. Using also stamps for that, a clear stamp in this case, and then I'll just have those for layering and to add to little paper clusters and stuff like that. Something else I really like to do as well to add a little bit of color and depth to the paper is to use ink on it. So here I'm using fountain pen ink in a color called espresso, which is a deep, very dark brown. And I am going to use just a regular watercolor pen to just paint some color around and just create some shades and textures. You really don't need to be a painter to do this, just have fun. Make sure you're using a bit of water as well to dilute it and just mix it around. I'm now going to set this aside to dry, and I'm going to keep playing with the ink a little bit more. I'm just going to grab the same pen and give it a few taps over the paper, and that will create this like spotted effect. Guys, look at that. I got some ink on my hands. Isn't that a very pretty texture? Anyway, I got distracted. Let's keep going. The next thing I'm going to do is look into this bag that I have is just full of scraps, and I am going to be looking for different pieces of paper like this one and other things I have in here that I can use to layer and create different clusters and textures. Some of them I'm just going to use as they are, and some other ones like these ones I'm going to be stamping too. Okay, these are now stamped, and here I have everything that I have stamped so far. So things are starting to take shape, and so we're gonna move to the next step. I am now going to be adding some decorations to what we have already stamped. The first thing I'm going to do is use transfer stickers to add some florals and other elements that I think are really going to enhance and just add a little bit of beauty. I really do love transfer stickers because I think they just merge on the paper and it kind of looks like it's part of it. So especially when I am making like vintage style papers that I wanted to have that like realistic look, I like using transfer stickers. They are also super satisfying to use, in my opinion. You literally just have to rub, and there's nothing more satisfying than just lifting like kind of like the clear cover and just see the design or your florals or whatever become a part of the paper. I really love that. I am also going to be using this floral tape. This is part of my love letters collection, and they're very neutral like a lot of what I do, and I think they're going to go really well with the style that I'm trying to achieve. So I'm just going around and looking for little florals in this case, or literally just any design elements that I think are going to look well with the vibe that I'm going for. Now, something to keep in mind here is you can use whatever you have. If you have stickers, if you have more stamps, just whatever you have, like go for that. Another way to add to that vintage kind of like distressed look is to take the paper that you have already dyed and that you have turned and use some distressed ink, or really any ink you have, with a sponge or a little applicator like this one. I like to go around the edges and then just go over the actual surface of the paper as well to make it a little bit more uniform. A way to create a very subtle distressed edge without using ink is to use your scissors. So just open the scissors, grab the sharp part of the blade and just run it on the edge of your paper. This does work better on thicker papers, like it will probably just tear like a copy paper or something that thin, but with cardstock it works really well. Next, grab your scissors and start cutting. We are getting so close here, guys. Let me show you what we have so far. So some of these pieces I have actually torn manually rather than cutting, just to create kind of, like that script paper for backgrounds. And then we have the ones that I actually cut with the scissors. Those are the ones where we wanted, or I wanted to achieve more of a like actual label shape. You can see here the ones with the edged, the torn edges. I think they look really nice. These are the ones where we use the fountain pen ink. You can see like the tone is a little bit different. The ones with the distressed edges. So these are probably a little bit on the yellowish side for me. I like things a little bit more neutral, but I know that I'm gonna find use for them. And I also have just simple pieces of paper that on their own, they might not look like much, but these are the kind of things that will layer really nicely and take just a paper cluster or any pages that we're trying to put together into something really interesting and with a little bit more depth once you start layering all of this. These here have to be my favorites. You kind of see the very subtle avocado dye in the back. I really love them. Here's another one where we just took advantage of that torn edge the paper had already to create what it looks like. Just a previously loved piece of paper. Look at these ones. I am again a big fan of the partial stamping and just creating that, missing part effect. Here we have some of the frames. These were paper dyed, so that's why they're a little bit more intense. I didn't really do anything with this one that was already stamped. And then we have more script papers that I'm going to use for layering, and more labels, and yeah. Here are the ones that, the one I used the scissors to create that distressed effect. It's the one at the top, you can see it there. For the bottom one, I just tore those manually after we had dyed and stamped. You guys, I don't know if you can hear the crunch here. This is a very thin fiber paper, and it is just so satisfying. The fiber paper, this gave a really nice effect. You could stop here if you want. We already have loads of paper we can use in our crafts and our journals, but I'm gonna go ahead and start layering and just clustering some of these. I'm going to be using some studs I have here and some mini paper clips as well, which I think are really cute, and I'll show you now what I'm going to do. I'm basically just going to be finding little pieces that I think will look together and cluster them. Okay, so we have this is sort of like the mesh, or I know this has another name, it doesn't come to mind right now, but based on the color, I think it looks really nice against white. Is a nice contrast. So I'm just going to take my scissors and make this a little smaller, and then I'm going to layer it on top of that, and I'm going to reach for one of the studs that I pulled out of the box before, and I'm going to just tie these two little pieces together with that. This is something super simple that you can do. It's not rocket science, but it does add a more interesting, look and layer, especially if you're planning to use that like in your journals and to create like scrapbook pages, art book pages. I think it just takes those little pieces of paper onto a next level, or onto a new level, should I say. So here I am just tearing some of that script paper that we put together, and I think I'm just gonna use this in between two layers to create that bit of depth in between them. And again, I'm gonna reach for one of those studs. I'm actually using my tweezers here, which have a very sharp end to cut through because I have quite a few layers of paper here, and then just put that stud in. And something that I think looks really cute is using this very fine thread. It's like hyper fine, I can't remember, like 0.1, 0.2 millimeters. And what you're going to do is wrap it around that little metal stud that you use to bind the papers together, and just make a teeny tiny little bow. And I think that gives us a really adorable finish, and something that can definitely be the focal point of a journal page. Another way to beautifully bind paper is with your sewing machine. Now, I know not everyone has a sewing machine and not everyone knows how to use it. I myself am only learning, but this is just a really, really cute way. And you can play with different stitch types to create different textures on your cluster. Let me show you here what some of them could look like. So that's it, guys. Let's go through some of my favorite pieces that we made today. I think anything that is layered and that has like different textures and colors mixed will be a favorite of mine. And I love having these handy to put in journals and happy mails. And of course, we still have a lot of handmade ephemera and papers to play with. I hope you liked this video. If you did, or if you tried anything that you saw here, let me know in the comments. If you feel like giving us a like or subscribing, I'm going to be sharing way more content like this in the future as well. So we would love to have you here, and it will help my channel a lot. Have a wonderful day, everyone.